This is The Jason Jones Show, powered by Mudhouse Media. Now, here's Jason Jones.
Aloha, everybody, and welcome to The Jason Jones Show. I am your host, Jason Jones, broadcasting from the beautiful hill country of Texas. We are continuing on with our 49 days in a row celebrating the overturning of Roe versus Wade. And today, our guest is going to be Victoria Robinson. She is a highly regarded voice in pro-life causes. She's been doing this for over 2 decades. Her speaking engagements have spanned the globe. She is the author of They Lied to Us and They Lied to Us Too. She is an expert, one of the foremost experts in the world on post-abortion trauma and post-abortion healing. Before we get on with the interview, though, I need to let you know this episode is being brought to you by MyPillow.com. And I bet you Victoria is going to agree with me. There is no better way to celebrate the Supreme Court opening the door for us to walk through and celebrate a culture of life, promote a culture of life, than with Giza Dream Sheets. So go to MyPillow.com, use the code Jones, get deep discounts on sheets, get, that should be on Media Matters. Media Matters, you should clip this up and say, he's telling people to buy sheets to celebrate women's oppression. Go to MyPillow.com, use the code Jones, and not just sheets. Right now, we have massive inflation on everything in the world, but when you use the code Jones, you can get the Mike Lindell slippers for the best price ever. This episode is also being brought to you by Epic Times. The first place you should go every morning is to the Epic Times. Go to ireadepoch.com, use the code Jason Jones, and you will get a subscription for $1. $1. Go to ireadepoch.com. The code is Jason Jones. And as always, our main sponsor, the Vulnerable People Project, standing in solidarity with the most vulnerable people in the world. We're almost a year in our efforts to rescue, evacuate, and resettle Afghans. We are the last Western organization that we know of still operating in Afghanistan. This week, we've installed cameras in schools, in a university, and a girls' school. We've hired security guards because ISIS has ramped up its terror attacks. And we're putting in our very first women's medical center in a rural part of Afghanistan, one of many more to come. Go to thegreatcampaign.org and look at all we do and stand with us as we stand with the vulnerable by becoming a monthly donor. All right, let's get on with the interview with the great and wonderful Victoria Robinson. It's the Jason Jones Show. Victoria Robinson, welcome to the Jason Jones Show.
Thank you for having me again. I'm so happy to be back.
It's great to have you back. And you have a new book out since we last talked. They Lied to Us Too, The Forgotten Fathers, Men and Abortion.
I do, and I'm really excited about it because what I'm hearing, Jason, from so many people, which I understand, but yet it's still unfortunate, is, God, I never thought about the men.
Yeah, I'm a man that's post-abortive, and I don't think about the men.
Yeah,
to be honest. And Victoria, if I can be straight, I have no sympathy for them, and I'm one of them.
Well, okay then.
So walk me through it. Walk me through it. I'm sorry? No, I'm not saying I'm right. I'm not saying I'm right. I'm saying my sentiments are, I'm going to be straight. Why have a podcast unless you can be straight, right?
That's true.
Right. I'm not talented. I'm not Bill O'Reilly. So the only thing I can do is say exactly what I think. And this is, you know my story. You know my story, right?
I do.
So my high school girlfriend was forced to have an abortion. She didn't consent to it, nor did I. I didn't even know about it until after it happened. And so oftentimes I will be at these conferences, and I'll be at these conferences, and they'll ask men to speak on being post-abortive, and I will listen to a man say, you know, I was a big shot lawyer and I thought I was the belle of the ball and I had all these girlfriends and I was paying for abortions here and paying for abortions there and I'd send them flowers. And then years and years later, when I reflected on what I did and I realized how devastated I was. And I'm just like, I don't have sympathy for you. So help me. I want you to help me have sympathy for these guys because I don't.
Jason, okay. First of all,
and I'm just being honest. I'm not, if
want you to be honest.
If this were CNN, I would say I have such sympathy for these men too.
No.
But I'm just saying it like it is. I really don't have any empathy for them, and I'm kind of like shush.
Okay, well then how can we have empathy for anybody who's caught in sin and then repent? Well, it doesn't matter what the sin is. How can we have empathy for women?
You want to know why?
Women, yeah. I want to know why.
I'm going to tell you why. So it's not as if they're addled. I mean, if I hear a man say he's so addled that he hurt a woman so, but so often I'll hear them say that they never had kids and then they reflected later on all the abortions they paid for and it hurt them. If they were addled by how much they've hurt women, right? Or how much they hurt this woman or how much they hurt that woman. And it's because I think that is the big thing that we've done, right? When a woman chooses abortion, I can understand that actually. I have a lot of empathy for that. I have a lot of empathy for women who hold to pro-choice views. When a man says he's pro-choice, I want to throw him down a flight of stairs. I have no empathy for them. But when a man is involved in an abortion, I feel like he is not only participating in the destruction of his child, but mortally, not mortally wounding, but the worst kind of wound. He's participating in the worst kind of wound to this woman. And I don't, and I know that I'm wrong in this. Like, I'm not saying that I'm right, but I'm just saying my sentiments, my feelings, and my thoughts and my feelings, by God's grace, don't often align. I have a lot of disordered feelings. But emotionally, when I hear these stories, I get very angry.
Well, okay. So here's one thing. I can understand why you get angry because you're a man who wants to protect women and you're a man who's angry for what happened to your child. I get it. I understand how you feel. And I felt the same way a long time for the father of my aborted child, Jason. I grew to hate him because he was supposed to protect me and take care of me. And when I called him over 10 years later to tell him about my first book, They Lied to Us, I was shocked. And now, granted, I was probably as judging and as condemning as you sound right now towards him. As soon as I get on the phone with him, he hears my voice when all I said was, "Hey, it's me," and he starts to weep. I can't hardly understand him. He's crying so hard and tells me, "Can you please forgive me for what I made you do? It's haunted me all these years. I've been in therapy years dealing with it. Please, Vic, can you forgive me?" That I was calling him to tell him about my book and to reassure him there were no identifying factors about him in the book. Yet God turned it around, Jason, on me, and has this guy saying to me, "Oh my gosh, I've been waiting for this call for over a decade. Vic, I'm so sorry for what I made you do. It's haunted me. 8 years I've been in therapy dealing with it."
Whoa, see, but this guy's response I love. Like, he was addled with the pain that he put you through.
But these guys that you're telling me are standing up saying, I repent and I feel horrible about what I made her do. What's the difference? There's no difference. So he says to me, "Can you forgive me? I should have protected you. I should have protected our child." So in that moment, Jason, me being as cold-hearted as, I'm sorry, buddy, you sound towards men who felt the same way towards him, my heart of stone turned as a heart of flesh towards this guy. And my whole paradigm shifted as to how I viewed men in that very moment. And I realized, oh my gosh, I've hated this guy all these years. I've hated all men that have talked women into abortion, drove her there, lied to her, manipulated her so that they could keep her. "Hey, I'll stay with you as long as you get rid of it." Or just left and said, "It's my kid," and didn't stand up to their responsibilities. I hated them. Then here I was, this guy who was truly repentant, truly remorseful, who had an awakening of what he had participated in and forced me and talked me into doing. Because all I needed him to say was, "Baby, don't do it. We'll figure this out." But he didn't. And now here I was listening to this guy who was so broken, Jason. And he wasn't faking it. He was truly broken and able to say to him, "God, yeah, I do forgive you. And what happened in that moment for me, Jason, was not only did the hatred towards him and so many other men just go away, but I realized, wow, men are hurting too. And my healing was made complete when I forgave him. It truly was, because we do walk around thinking if we can hate the person who offended us, that we need to do that because we're so self-righteous, without realizing it's like taking poison and expecting him to die.
Yeah.
So I realized in that moment, my healing was complete. Men are hurting too. And I felt the Holy Spirit speak to my heart. And he said, don't you ever forget these men. These children have fathers, and these fathers are hurting. And I have not. From that day forward, I have always spoken out about men. Now that was, over 20 years ago when that call happened, but I have always spoken out about men. My book just came out about men 2 months ago, and I will not ever share a platform or speak in a pulpit without talking about the effect abortion has on men. The stories that I put in my book, Jason, are just a handful of the men I interviewed and I've met throughout my career. But I wanted to keep the book under 100 pages on purpose, because I want men to be able to read it quickly, get the help they need, or those men who are talking their women into an abortion, someone say, hey, you might want to read this book before you guys walk down there and hear what other men have to say about the choice they made. So I hear what you're saying. I'm not judging you for what you're saying. I don't want you to lie about how you feel, but I also want to help you try to shift your paradigm, at least start the journey, Jason, of understanding these men are hurting. They truly are. I've met them. And
no, I have to. Look, I know I'm wrong. Well, think about it. My abortion story is of a man forcing a woman to have an abortion.
Right.
So I'm kind of in a strange way, I'm in the shoes of a woman in this story. Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. It makes perfect. That's why I said before I said all of that, I get where you're coming from.
Yeah, I'm coming from I never thought of that before, that my experience of abortion is in many ways, not that I experienced the immense psychological and physical trauma and consequences of actually having an abortion take place in your body. But I never realized until just as we're listening to you talk that, yeah, I've experienced abortion as a woman in that way of my child was aborted by a man forcing it to take place.
Exactly. So that's why I get what you're saying. I can understand why you're saying it, but I think you're looking at it in a worldly way. And I know you're not a worldly guy. And so I do believe that part of your own healing, and I don't know where you're at, and I would assume from what you've said, you're still pissed off, and I get it. The guy forced her to kill your child. I understand it. That's one thing about you, though, Jason, that I love. As a man, you are incensed by the fact that someone did that to your child. And think about it, Jason, when a woman has an abortion and she buries it because that's what she needs to do, or she's been lied to and manipulated. And I know there are a minority amount of women who choose abortion and they celebrate it and they get pregnant on purpose to have abortions. I'm not talking about them. They are the minority.
But those women, obviously, if you're getting pregnant to have an abortion, and I've seen those videos the women make saying, I got pregnant.
Disgusting.
Well, I think they're probably mentally ill, right?
I do too. I was going to say they're with all due respect, they're insane.
They're the easiest in a way to kind of pity, because you just look at them and they usually have like.
I do not pity somebody who's saying, I'm so excited I had an abortion. I'm so excited I'm pregnant because I get to go kill my baby.
Yeah, I've seen those. By the way, Victoria, I want people to know that aren't obsessed with the issue like you and I are, and look at every single Instagram or TikTok video or tweet that has hashtagged abortion. There's this fad, I don't know if we call it a fad, but the phenomena of women who go get pregnant to take the morning after pill and film it and then discuss what it's like to have an abortion. And they oftentimes, I believe, affect, sort of a sense of glee or excitement that they're participating in the taking of their own child's life. And when I see that, I'm like, wow, this is clearly either someone who's possessed, suffering from an intellectual disability, or is mentally ill. Something's going on there, right?
No question. And it sounds like your heart goes out to them.
It does. No, it's just men. No, and I will tell you, like, I'll be at these conferences, and then these guys are my friends, right? And I'll say, yeah, don't look to me for pity, bro. I said, work harder. I do. No, you know me. I tell people what I think. I'm saying, listen, I don't think you work hard enough. Oh, you took 3 girls to get an abortion. How many political campaigns? What percentage of your income are you donating to the pro-life movement? I don't want to hear you speak. I want to see you act. Are you getting a pro-life governor? What are you doing? My line is, the Knights of Columbus, like 20 years ago, Vicki Thorne, you'll appreciate this. Vicki Thorne brought me to a meeting of like big Knights leaders nationally, and they were planning on doing a post-abortive healing conference for men. And they brought me there, right? So they wanted my opinion. And I said, I don't like this plan at all, because men should heal by burying their claws, not licking their wounds. I don't want to sit around with a bunch of men going, oh, woe is me. I want to get together with a bunch of men and say, how do we get a human life amendment to the Constitution? How do we get a president elected that gives us right judges? How do we make sure every pregnancy center in every community has all the resources that it needs? I see that. You got some sympathy from me. If all I see you do is give a speech, blah, 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 you feel horrible. Yeah, don't look to me for sympathy.
Okay, but Jason, listen.
But I know I'm wrong.
Listen, you are definitely wrong. Listen to me. These men that you're wanting to stand up and be these men of valor, like you are fighting the good fight for the unborn, the majority of them can't do it when they're walking wounded. And that's why the healing is important. That's why they need to understand when they're feeling like, why do I feel this way? Why am I so ashamed? Why do I feel this guilt? They told me it's not my body, but why now is it affecting me? It's because they haven't found redemption in Christ. That is, you and I both know that the only healing you can ever find is through Christ when it comes to the abortion issue and any sin.
Any sin, yeah.
So, and here's something that I think you will appreciate, I hope, is, do you remember back when Philip Morris Company was sued? There was a civil lawsuit brought against them by the families of those who had died of cancer because they weren't doing enough education and warnings about the effects of smoking.
Yeah, it led to the Truth Campaign. All that money.
Exactly. So,
by the way, a big shot over at the Truth Campaign, real big shot.
Uh-huh.
Not going to say her name, get her in trouble. One of the biggest fans of the Jason Jones Show.
Well, check this out.
Okay.
Today, less people smoke. Today, you can get on an airplane without smoke. Today, you can go to a restaurant without smoke. You can go to a bar without smoking, where you can breathe. You don't see as many pregnant women smoking, if any, very few, because of education, because they told the truth. They were forced to tell the truth. When we help offer men and women healing from their abortion, Jason, I'm convinced it's a backdoor approach to ending abortion, because a healed man and woman can't keep their mouths shut. And then they will be right there with you. Let's go fight. Let's take up arms. But they've got to have healing because they've been crippled in their pain. So whether they talked her into it, drove her for 7 abortions, I've met these men. They're devastated, and they're no good to anybody when they're still living in their shame and their guilt. They've got to get the help first. So yes, I believe when more men get help from their participating, I'm not talking about men who dress as women or women who dress as men who dress as women.
Yeah, are you? By the way, I want to make sure we get this straight. Are you a biologist? Because wow, you throw man and woman around like some kind of scientist.
You know what? I had my Wheaties this morning, or what? I stayed at a Motel 6 last night.
We call them birthing people. We on the Jason Jones Show, we call them birthing people.
Well, we don't call them that in my world. We call them men and women. I say, you have a penis, you're a man. You have a vagina, you're a woman, period. So anybody who's dressing as a woman is never going to give birth. You know, we're hearing about, oh, men can have children. No, they can't. Okay? They'll never be able to have children. That's a whole nother show. But my whole point in this is this, because someone said they heard me on an interview the other day, and the only reason I'm saying it is they thought that I was saying, if you're a man who dresses like a woman, I'm so sorry if you're a man who's had an abortion. I'm like, they turned it around like they always love to do. No, only women can have abortions, not men. But men are also affected. Jason, men were created to protect their women, as I said, when they realized they failed their women. God created you guys to be like what you're talking about. The man who beats his chest and says, try to hurt my family, try to hurt my woman or my offspring, and I will fight you to the death. When a man realizes I did nothing to protect my own child, I even participated and manipulated and lied to her to get her to kill my own child, they are devastated.
Yeah, no, I've tried to do like spiritual exercises to have empathy, and say, could you imagine? No, I do this all the time. Like this is turning into you should invoice me like you're my psychiatrist. So no, but what I'll do is like I'll lie down and I'll say, could you imagine if I coerced or threatened my high school girlfriend to have the abortion? How would I feel? Obviously, I can't even imagine. I'm so addled by things that I've done to people. I think as we all are, right?
Mm-hmm.
I was with a friend of mine the other day. He's a really famous guy, and I told him we were talking about like the worst things we've ever done, and honestly, the worst thing I ever did, Victoria, I shouldn't even say this on the air. I was in a movie theater with my kids like 20 years ago, my older kids, and work was really hard, and these teenagers were making just a ton of noise, and I shouted really loud, "Don't make me come back there. Don't make me stand up. Don't make me turn around." And then they kept being really loud. And I'm like, this is just too much. Again, I didn't stand up. I didn't turn around. I just said, if your last warning. And then they got louder, and I'm thinking, these punks. And God forgive me, I stand up and I fling the world's biggest Coca-Cola at them. Right? Horrible. I think about this every day. Okay, it gets worse. It became very clear that these were teenagers, like 17, 18 years old, group of friends. They were deaf. Yeah. I think about that every single day of my life. Like, oh.
Well, maybe you need to go to some kind of retreat. Then think about it. This
was 20 years ago. But my point being, could you imagine? But I'm saying, I think about that, right?
Yeah.
It addles me. Like, how could I do such a horrible thing? So I think, like, what if I was a man? And a lot of these men, they think they're doing. Well, my high school girlfriend's father, by the way, eventually apologized to her after 20-some years. When I heard that, I immediately could forgive him, and I did not forgive him at all until that. And it's strange. As soon as I heard that he apologized for forcing his daughter to get a third trimester abortion, I felt empathy. And this is going to sound strange after everything else I've just said. At that moment, I understood. I could see how what he did, he thought was loving. Here his daughter's pregnant by some white trash kid from the wrong side of town. They were from the right side of town. He was a very prominent psychiatrist in Chicago from a prominent family. And my mom had me at 16, and I was poor white trash. And I could see how he was just horrified at all of this and then thought what he was doing. So I'm sure all these men think they're doing the right thing, some of them the supportive thing. I don't think most men are like, you go get this abortion or else. I think most are probably like, let's do what's best for you. And they probably think it's what's best for them, right? And then it's years later. Now, there's the spectrum. There's guys that are vicious and cruel and threatening and vindictive and manipulative. But I would say that's in a bell curve. That would be on one side. And then on the other side of the bell curve, there were those who were begging them not to have the abortion. And then in the middle is probably most men are doing, like most women, what they think is the socially responsible thing to do in that situation, go together to get an abortion.
Yep. And here's the bottom line. People from each category you just mentioned all come to a place where they have regret, shame, guilt. They repent, they're remorseful, and they're devastated and have to live with it the rest of their life. Can you imagine what her father has to live with the rest, if he's still alive, the rest of his life?
He passed away. That guy was a reprobate, though. He did
died.
A lot of other horrible things.
Up until he died, he had to live every day knowing he killed his own grandchild. So that's pretty heavy, man.
Yeah, and that was probably not as bad as abortion is, he had a lot of other sins that would bump right up against that one.
I just think that we who are forgiven much, Jason, who are we I'm sure if you told that story about the movie theater, you wouldn't want somebody saying to you, "You're a piece of trash." What a horrible thing.
I say it because I want people to know, like, yeah, I did that.
Exactly. So what's the difference of someone saying to you, "I did this," and you going, well, you piece of trash. See, I don't have any empathy or sympathy for you.
No, but I would have empathy for people who, if they heard that story, you know, and they said, man, that guy's a piece of trash. I would say, I get that. I get how you would come to that conclusion. Do you see what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yes,
one of the things I always tell folks is, you know, if you do something egregious and someone doesn't forgive you for it, we have no right to be upset at them for not forgiving us. We should forgive them for not being able to forgive us and actually be able to have empathy.
Correct.
So if someone here's my crazy story, which by the way, my famous friend, like this guy, I'm not going to say it, he's like, bro, I did the same exact thing. And he tells this crazy story. And it's actually in a way a little more dramatic and hurtful because of who he is, you know?
Yeah.
But he did something very similar. And I said, oh man, you and I are going to be, by God, I'm Catholic. So I said, and so is he. I said, you and I, man, if we make it to purgatory, we're going to be there, the last two out. And they're gonna St. Peter's gonna yell back at us, yeah, you wish you had acted right, gentlemen, in movie theaters, didn't you?
But you know, and let me make this clear. I'm not comparing what you did to a man forcing or talking in or doing nothing while his girlfriend or wife has an abortion.
It's similar though, right? But it's similar, Victoria, because what it is it's cruelty to vulnerable people. So I see it as quite similar.
Yes, you feel horrible about what you did, and it haunts you. I remember when I was about 15, trying to be a big shot in front of my friends, came to my grandmother's house, and just to be a big shot, my precious tiny little 5-foot granny was like, "Hello," she's Spanish. "Hello, Vicky. Are your friends going to eat here?" I said, "I don't know, Granny. I'll let you know." I've never, ever forgotten that.
Yeah, we all have those little things. I hear that, and I'm like, is that it? That's your big thing right there, Victoria?
No, my point is, though, because that's my big thing that breaks my heart because I saw her face, what I did to her.
Mm-hmm.
But yet we don't extend the same grace and mercy to others, and we look at people. Now, look, I've been in this work 26 years, so I've met hundreds, if not, I've met thousands of post-abortive men and women. I have empathy and sympathy for them. This guy asked me today, Jason, I'm interested in how you're going to feel about this. But I got a call this morning from someone who wants me to speak at their event. And he said, I want to let you know up front. Actually, he didn't tell me up front. He told me after we secured some things. He says, I think you should know that we're trying to get legislation passed to prosecute women who have abortions. So how do you feel about that?
Oh, I've written about. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking me. Okay, go.
I know, because I'm interested in how you feel. And he said, what do you think about that? Because there are women who are getting pregnant to have abortions. They know better. It's the last trimester, and they're still having abortions. And I said, well, he gave me his whole spiel, and I said, I understand. We can't say the unborn are human, and then not talk about what's going to be done if you kill that human being. It's a contradiction. But I have been advocating for over 2 decades for the man or woman who's had an abortion. And I mean it when I say, whether anybody agrees with me, even you, whether you don't, and I respect if you don't. I have been advocating that the majority of men and women involved in an abortion are the other victim. And it's true that they're lied to. It's true that they're manipulated. It's true that they're painted into a corner thinking this is the best thing. It's just all of the different things going through their mind. Yes, there are those who walk in and know better, and that baby just kicked them, and they're still saying, get it out. I get it. So I told him, I said, if you're asking me to publicly stand up and say, I agree with what you're doing, I can't do that, because I will always fight not only for the unborn, but for the parents.
Yeah, and I think they're related. So you and I are on the same page. I wrote an article with Zmirak, and we've been writing about this for years. Whenever there's sort of a flurry of some quote-unquote pro-life activist draws attention to him or herself because they're advocating prison time for women involved in an abortion. And the argument that Zmirak and I lay out is simple, that when a woman has an abortion, it's almost a type of suicide. It's an act of such complete and utter desperation that we should treat this woman the way we would treat someone who attempted a suicide, with care and counseling. In fact, one of the hosts of The View just retweeted our article and said we were lunatics because we suggested, but we were like, hey, thanks, The View retweeted our article. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. I'm going to put that on my Wikipedia. So someone from The View, Joy, whatever, retweeted it, and she said that these lunatics, it was an article we were saying that the idea of sending women to prison for abortions is absurd, that they need to be treated, that they should have opportunities to counseling and therapy and da-da-da-da-da, the way we would treat someone who attempted a suicide. Now, of course, if a doctor participated in your quote-unquote assisted suicide, they should be prosecuted. And if a doctor participated in the destruction of your preborn child, they should be prosecuted. But the woman who is involved, obviously, at least for the next 20, 30, 40 years, we have to recognize that everyone in our society has been lied to about human dignity, about the issue. They've been lied to by religious leaders, political leaders, by our courts. And it seems like to turn on a dime and then automatically begin talking about prosecuting women as if this is. So, yeah, no, I would agree with you there because, again, I come from a place of wanting to protect the vulnerable. Mm-hmm. And these women caught in these crisis pregnancies, and some of them, the exceptions, let's say that I just saw 0.3% of abortions are because of rape. Okay, let's just say 3% are these hard cases. 3% is a lot, right? So we have to have empathy and understanding. And again, I'm conscious. See, I'm very good at having empathy for women. It's just men that's my blind spot.
Yeah, because you have the history with a man who forced his daughter to have an abortion and aborted your child. So I get that.
Yeah.
But you've forgiven him, Jason. So that's the part for me that goes, you've forgiven that guy. So you need to take, and I think it sounds like you already know that. You got to take that get on your knees, buddy.
Oh, I do.
And figure out why you still feel that way towards every man. And I'm not saying there aren't those men out there that are just horn dogs that could care less and have no feeling for how they abuse and hurt women and how many children they abort. Yes, there are
or
those
abandon.
Men.
Yeah.
Yeah, or abandon them. But there are many who don't. I just, and as far as the rape thing goes, that's of course the question we always get in pro-life. What about rape? What about rape? In 26 years, I've had 2 women, Jason, who were raped and found out they were pregnant. Because it is, even though it's a lie, it is not what the abortion industry creates it to be. It is not the picture they paint because it helps their business and their cause. These 2 women, one chose abortion, the other chose adoption. The one who chose abortion came to me for therapy, and she said, everyone was telling me, get rid of it, get rid of it, get rid of it right away. You don't want to be reminded of your rapist and what happened to you. So she did. She just believed everyone, the doctors, her family, her friends, and she had the abortion. Then here's what she told me. When I realized, Victoria, years later, that was not just my rapist's baby, but it was my baby. The trauma of abortion compounded the trauma of rape. Then the rapist got away with it, by the way, which think about that. The baby paid
but not the rapist.
For that crime with its life. The father scot free. The other woman who chose adoption said God took something so ugly and turned it into something beautiful when I held my son and was able to give him to another family that could not have children. That's my problem with the rape argument.
Well, a baby's a baby, right? If
a baby's a baby.
Baby's a baby.
Ultrasound if this baby's a product of rape or this.
We're mammals. It's complex.
Baby.
It is what it is.
Yes.
We're mammals. This is how it works.
Yes.
And there are some sticky situations.
It's not just the baby for me. It's not just the baby for me. And
yeah.
God, those children that are aborted are with Jesus. That's my belief, 100%. But it is not just. It never has just been about the baby for me, because I am a post-abortive woman. I get where they're coming from. I empathize and sympathize what they've gone through and the choices they've made after abortion because they were self-destructive, because they thought they deserved to be with men who cheated on them or knocked them around or called them nasty names. I get it. I lived it. So I'm saying we've got to remember that, yes, a rape is horrific. It is traumatic. And the rapist, in my opinion, should pay with his life. But the trauma of an abortion on top of the trauma of the rape, how does that help a woman who's already traumatized?
Yeah, no, it compounds the trauma. And I've read studies that women are less likely to choose abortion if they're pregnant from rape than if not, which struck me as strange. Vicky Thorne sent me the study several years ago. And Vicky said her thoughts on that is maybe that they just have been traumatized by an act of violence, that they're repulsed by the thought of participating in an act of violence. So that was one study. I'll tell you something that really, I mean, obviously I've always been for full legal protection. I mean, Victoria, I didn't even know abortion was a thing, as strange as it sounds. I did not know that in our country you could destroy a child in the womb. Just didn't know that until I found out my child was destroyed. And it struck me as bizarre. I'd never been to church a day in my life. I was a high school dropout, 17 in the Army. Didn't know any of that. Struck me as bizarre. So for me, it's always just been quite simple. We don't kill babies. Just that simple. But something that had really rocked me, I was on a public access television show, 2004. I was working for the Bush campaign in Wisconsin. There was some panel that they were doing for public access in Chicago, and they had asked me to come in and be as a post-abortive man. And so I drove down from Green Bay to Chicago, and there was a woman on the panel who talked about being sexually molested from the age of 10 to 14, 10 till 18 by her stepfather. Now, when she got pregnant at 13, and she hid the pregnancy for as long as she could because she was so excited. She said to herself, now that I'm pregnant, everyone's going to know what's going on, and he's going to stop. She was so excited. Well, the guy got suspicious, and I don't know if she just was showing or he made her get a pregnancy test. I don't remember. But he discovered that she was pregnant, and he dragged her, threw her in the car and dragged her to Planned Parenthood after hours, and they went through the back door. And I don't know what deal he worked out, and she underwent a forced abortion. And she said then all became hopeless for her, and he continued to abuse her into her adulthood until eventually he abused her younger sister, and when she found out, then she turned him in. She always thought, I'll take the abuse, so he leaves my sister alone. And when she realized that strategy wasn't working, reported him. But in her talk, she mentioned that how abortion is the greatest cover-up for sexual abuse and rape. And I suspect probably most pregnancies caused by rape are repeat rapes, and these rapes that you get from child sex abuse. So, when you say that you still have abortion for rape, what you're doing is you're saying that you're still having abortion for rapists.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. And I'm gonna say something that might surprise you, maybe not. Those men, even I'd like to cut them. I'd like to castrate them myself. So when we're talking about forgiveness and repentance and remorse, I think those men, it takes Jesus walking on water, Jesus raising people from the dead miracle, which can happen, for them to come to repentance. But God, those kinds of stories, and I hear them all the time too, Jason, they enrage me and infuriate me for what has been done to women and the abuse women have taken for centuries because of men's sexual pleasure and control and power. So I get it. I get there are men who some would say, he doesn't deserve forgiveness. You don't know what he did, et cetera, et cetera. But I know in my own life, God's going to deal with him. But what I have to do for my own health and sanity is I have to walk in forgiveness daily. I didn't say it's easy. I mean, I never said it was easy. But I know that that's going to destroy who I am if I don't walk in constant grace and mercy. And I've asked for it myself for the ultimate sin, in my opinion, of abortion. How can I expect not to extend it to someone else? So it's not easy. But hey, this Christian walk, this Jesus following stuff, it ain't for the wussies.
No. And I think for me, I have my spiritual autobiography is coming out next year at Sophia Press, and the title is On Rocky Soil, a spiritual autobiography from someone you may not meet in heaven is the subtitle. And one of the things I try to do is just be very open and honest with what I struggle with. And so again, like if I have a friend who's post-abortive and he's like, I have one friend, lament, and I say, bro, I'm sorry, I'm the wrong guy. I'm the wrong guy to talk to about this. Love you, bro, but You're not getting any sympathy from, and that is just something I struggle with. Again, I'm with you on rapists. Like I'm a public advocate for a moratorium on capital punishment, although I'm not opposed to extrajudicial killings. I mean, I just want to handcuff the state. So I feel the same way about rape. And these are child molesting, child abuse. And you just sit there and, I try to have empathy, and I'll think of disgraced predator Cardinal McCarrick, this Catholic cardinal who I've met several times, who was just a rabid predator. And I'll try to have empathy. And I think I'm pretty good at empathy on all sorts of things, but the willful, rape and child molestation, willfully hurting vulnerable people, I don't begin to wrap my mind around it. But I know I don't have to wrap my mind around it for God to forgive them.
Exactly. And here's what I'll tell you, Jason, about you as you're talking, I'm thinking about when I've had women who come through I do these healing abortion recovery retreats. There are 3.5 weekends of intense therapy specific to the abortions from their past that they're still traumatized by. And I've had women who've come through who've had late-term abortions, who've had abortions where they felt their baby. And I'm going to be honest, when I first, and it took me, it's been several years, thank God I've been delivered of it. But back then, when I first started having them come through and they're sitting there saying, I was 6 months, I was 7 months, I was 8, I'm having this moment where I'm going, oh my Lord, I'm so angry right now. How could she not have realized it was a baby? I was 6 weeks pregnant. I wasn't even sick. Nothing told me I was pregnant. Nothing was happening to make me feel pregnant. So it was easy for them to tell me there's nothing there but a blob of tissue. Mm-hmm. Well, when I realized that these women are truly repentant and remorseful and hurting and in pain and deserve the same compassion from me that the woman at 6 weeks, because I met them. Mm-hmm. Because I met them and I heard their stories and I saw their agony and I saw their pain. And then that turned from judgment of, okay, Lord, I can help this one over here, but how do you expect me to help this one? I'm even mad at her for doing that. Then I meet them and I look into their eyes, and knowing my heart is broken for her because she has to live the rest of her life with the knowledge that apart. And my heart goes out to her and I'm able to comfort her and love her and truly, not fake it. I'm not really good at faking anything, by the way. You can tell when I am, like you said, we are who we are. Take it or leave it. But I'm telling you, it was genuine love and compassion that only can come from God. And that's what I can tell you. Someone else asked me on an interview and she was real honest. She said, help me. How do you know? How do you have compassion for these women? It makes me angry, and I'm a Christian, but I'm angry that women know better than to have abortion. How can you sit here and tell me that, and this woman loves me and has become a good friend, how can you sit here and tell me that that these women truly do have brokenness in their heart for what they've done? And I looked at her and I said, because I'm one of them.
So she didn't know.
No, she did know. Mm-mm. And she loved me, and she looked at me and she said, oh my gosh. I just got it because I respect you. I have always admired you, and I never put that together. That me saying, because I'm one of them, it just for her was a light bulb moment because she said, I could not ever hate you. I find you to be someone who loves people, who's done great things, and you have a heart for people, but I've never married the two until just now when you said that. Now I get it, Vic. I get it. And you're right.
See, and as I'm listening to it, I'm like, how can she not get to forgive these women? But you're looking at me going, how can he not get to forgive these men? So as I'm listening to you tell this story, I'm like, how does she not forgive women that have abortions?
How about looking in the mirror? How about looking in the mirror, buddy?
Or as I'm listening to you, I'm like, how could Victoria not forgive women who've had late-term abortions? But then I'm like, yeah, but I literally give no quarter to these men.
Exactly. And you know why? Listen, I'm not going to say I'm right or I'm wrong. You need to chew on it and think about it. But I think part of the reasons you're still struggling to forgive men is because you've maybe convinced yourself that you've completely forgiven yourself for the part you think you played, that what you could have done to stop it, for the hatred you still may harbor towards this guy that you think you've let go of. Because until you can walk, Jason, in a place of forgiveness towards these men you don't even know, then
I'll tell you where it comes from. I know exactly where it comes from, Victoria. I've been doing this since 1989, and I've worked on almost every presidential campaign since then, in some capacity or another. I've worked at political campaigns from the State House to the White House, made movies. I've just ordered my life to do as much as possible. So I missed, it happens to be that political campaigns are the same time as my son's football season. So I missed like half of my son's football seasons because of election years. And I would meet men who are post-abortive that were powerful Republicans or big-time donors, and they would tell me how pro-life they are. But I would get so frustrated when I would see them half-step in their commitment to Republican to pro-life candidates or to pro-life initiatives. And so just over the years, and again, look, I get it. I remember I was studying screenplay writing, and it helped me understand something. And I'm not kidding you, Victoria. I used to just sit there and wonder, Jason, 1 out of 3 men are responsible for an abortion. And where are all these post-abortive men? Why aren't they around helping us end abortion? I don't see them. And I would say, wow, but here I am. I've done so much, and I've worked so hard for so long. Where are all these men? And what makes me, Lord, what makes me different? Why am I so much better than these other post-abortive men as hard as I fight? That's what I would think. Okay. Then I was studying screenplay writing. And there is something called the call to adventure, the inciting incident. The call to adventure is when the hero of the story discovers a great injustice took place. And responding to this call is what sets them on the adventure. And it was in meditating on studying this point in a screenplay I was writing and how to draw it out in a film that had nothing to do with abortion. And all the different ways that calls to adventure happen. One of the most common ways in a film is through actually a phone call. The hero will get a phone call, or R2-D2 will beam an image from Obi-Wan Kenobi in the desert to Luke Skywalker. This is, so, and then it dawned on me that my high school girlfriend, it's not that she called me and told me that she had an abortion. It's that she called me and she was crying like her soul was crying. She couldn't breathe. Mm-hmm. And then we ended up talking later that day for hours through $10 in quarters. And for $10 in quarters, she couldn't breathe and she couldn't stop crying for 1 second. And I thought about, what if she called me and said, "Hey, Jay, I've been thinking about it, and I talked to my dad, and, we went and got an abortion. I think it's the best for both of us." And I was kind of ignorant. I just said, "Well, what do you mean? What?" "Well, it's really just a teaspoon of blood and a grain of sand, and they just removed it, and it's no big deal, Jay, and I think it's best for both of us." I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing right now. Mm. So many men, they were participating in an abortion, but they never had the call. They never realized in a lightning bolt instant they experienced, or many women, they don't realize right away what was happening. They didn't experience their abortion initially as a great act of injustice. It might have been a relief. It might have been liberating. It might have been sorrowful and painful, but they didn't realize at that moment, and maybe over years, as they thought about it and it unfolded in their life, they came, like you, maybe you can tell us how you came to understand it as a tragedy. But that's when it dawned on me, I'm not better than anyone else. I'm a schmuck. It's just, what if she called me and said, "Jay, I have to tell you I was being abused by X, Y, and so-and-so. And I just did the math and I realized it wasn't your baby. I was being abused, and by my let's make it total mythology, by my stepfather, which she didn't have a stepfather, and I couldn't carry that scumbag's baby, and I went to get an abortion. I might be volunteering for Planned Parenthood, right?
Right.
I might have seen that Planned Parenthood is freeing her from having to carry some monster's baby. So these calls to adventure, I experienced it in a strange and unique way, striking an immediate way. I think so many of the people we're battling on the other side have real experiences of injustice that abortion is entangled with, and they may have seen the abortion as undoing this great act of injustice, like child sex abuse. They were abused. Can you share us with what was your call to adventure? You chose an abortion. How did it unfurl in your life? By the way, I've used unfurl in every podcast for this week. I will not use it again. I just caught myself using it again. Well, how did it unfold in your life where you came to realize that you participated in an act of injustice against your child, and that our laws had violated you in a way as well by pushing you in that direction?
Well, first I want to say this, Jason, it could be as simple as there's some people that are called to do what we do and some aren't. That doesn't make us better than them. We all have gifts and talents that God uses. There's days I wish I was back being a paralegal rather than doing what I do, but God has called me and gifted me to do what I do. So not everyone is, because when I meet people who've had abortions, they'll say to me, I don't want to tell anybody, do I have to do what you're doing? Because I don't think I can do that. Public speaking, we know, is one of the top 5 most terrifying things to do. And I said, no. But you know what? Now that you've gone through healing, your neighbor, your coworker, someone in your family may come to you now because God can trust you with them because you've been healed to speak life to them. So you can't hold against the men who aren't doing what you're doing. We may not be all called.
Yeah, but I don't think I have any gifts and talents, Victoria, and I see so many very talented people that I would look at over the years. I say, I wish I had their talents, their connections, their relationships, and I would love so much to leverage them or inspire them to be more committed. But I get it. No, I came to understand, and I'm kind of kidding when I'm like, I would sit there and go, oh, but I would wonder, why do I work so hard? And I find it so hard to animate others to activism,
I work my butt off, and I got to beg pastors, too many pastors, to give me 5 minutes of their pulpit to talk about the abortion issue, and they don't want to. We don't want to offend our pro-choice members. Exactly. Oh, Victoria, we've got some fighters who are pro. And I'm like, do you understand what you're doing to these people that you're supposed to be shepherding? When you don't talk about the abortion issue from the pulpit and show them that there is redemption, that God can offer forgiveness if they'll ask, they're sitting there thinking, my own pastor won't address it. That's how bad of a person I am. That's how lost I am. That's why I can never be used or don't amount to anything or don't deserve happiness or to be whole. My own pastor won't talk about it.
Yeah, no, I agree with you.
Get why you're frustrated. I get why you're frustrated because, buddy, I get frustrated. I've had to stop and go, you know what, Lord, I can only do what I can do. They're going to answer to him. Just like these people that may not be answering to fighting the good fight like we are, they're going to answer to God. But I'm not going to hate them for it. I'm just going to say, buddy, I feel more sorry for you, because when you meet your maker and he says, hey, what'd you do with this life I gave you? What'd you do with this forgiveness I gave you to help others? You did nothing, did you? So, okay, how did I choose? I was a single mother with 2 little girls that were 9 months and 3 when their father, who's, by the way, worth $200 million today, has never, ever done a thing for us. But he decided he was leaving. And he left me and the girls and went from North Carolina to California to start his business. And he still lives there to this day, as far as I know. And here I was now, a woman who had not worked but a part-time job, because I was more of a stay-at-home mom, who now had to work 2 jobs to make ends meet because he decided I don't want to be married anymore. And these little girls, for months and months and months, are sitting on the front porch waiting for Daddy, who promised this time he's going to take them on an adventure for the weekend. And they're holding their little suitcases packed. And I'm dragging them in, Jason, when it's dark, kicking and screaming and crying. What did we do? Why didn't Daddy come? This was constant. here's the mindset of me in my life. My husband has left. I always thought I'd be married forever, even though I was 16 years old when I married him. I wasn't pregnant. I was just stupid.
How old were you? How old are you at this time?
I am 21.
Okay.
So here I am. I'm desperate. I mean, I've got no husband. I'm ashamed. I'm embarrassed. I have these 2 babies to take care of, and I've got to go work a job. I taught myself and basically lied myself into a law firm because I'm one of those people that if you give me something, I can pretty much do it. Maybe not build a house or something, but I can pretty much learn things. That's my personality. And so I faked my way at 21 years old because I knew I had to take care of these children. And I got a job as a paralegal, and I was pretty darn good at it. So I was dropping them off 6 a.m. every day, 6 p.m. every night, hoping this was the one weekend a month he'd show up. Nope, never did. And then hoping this was the one day I'd go to the mailbox and have child support. Nope, never was. So I didn't have a choice. And then I got a second job. So in the second job, I met this guy who said all the right things. Now, remember, I'm this young girl who thought she'd be married forever. My parents got divorced when I was 10, which devastated me. I made a promise to myself as a little girl, when I get married and have kids, I won't ever do that to them. I'll stay married forever, and I'm going to have the happy life I've never had. Here I am. Oh my gosh, how did I get here? I'm dropping off 2 crying children, begging me not to leave them to go to work because I had to. So I meet this guy who tells me all the right thing. My self-esteem at the time was shot to pieces because I feel like I'm a loser. And my husband left me, and he didn't want me anymore. And I fell madly in love. And 9 months into our relationship, I'm pregnant. Now, I'd never thought I would choose an abortion in my lifetime because I would say at the time I was pro-life, even though, like you said, I didn't really realize abortion was something then. I didn't think you could actually do that. How could our government let us kill our own babies? And one of my friends had had 6, 7 abortions as birth control, and it ended our friendship because I got sick and tired of hearing her talk about being out all week and screwing around. And I'd say, what if you get pregnant again? Oh, we'll just have another abortion.
So wait a second, but you identify, this is really important. So Lecrae has a great song, The Good, the Bad, the Ugly. It's so honest and so powerful. And in it, he talks about being responsible for an abortion, bop, 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 after he became a Christian. And I'm so grateful for him to share that because, again, as I've expressed, I do have a lot of trouble sometimes having empathy or forgiving folks, but I do have empathy in a sense to understand if one is a Christian or carries the pro-life label and then chooses an abortion, which happens a lot, right? That there may be a special, the guilt is different or could be exacerbated. So can you tell us, how did you even know to identify as pro-life? So you would have said you knew there was a pro-choice, pro-life divide, and you said,
no,
pro-life.
Not really, Jason. I just knew that she was getting pregnant and having abortions, and it bothered me. I had already had 2 children. I knew the outcome of a pregnancy. Now, fast forward, here I am. That friendship has ended a couple of years ago, and I'm in a crisis pregnancy.
Okay, so when you said you saw yourself as pro-life, you mean you were just kind of frustrated at your friend.
I was convinced that she kept killing children as birth control.
And you saw it as killing children?
I did.
Wow.
I did. Now,
okay.
Here I am, pregnant, not married, barely making it, can't depend on their father, who's now in California, starting his new life with a, who knows what he's doing, but I can't depend on anything from him, and I'm pregnant. And so my boyfriend says, I love you, and one day we're going to get married. But right now, you can barely take care of the 2 you've got, and I'm not ready. So I think you should call an abortion clinic. And there was one in Charlotte, North Carolina. I was shocked that he said that, but I called. And I thought, okay, well, I might as well call. And so I called, and the woman on the phone is telling me, honey, don't you think you'd be really selfish as a mother to your 2 precious little girls to have another mouth to feed when you can barely feed the 2 you've got? And it's not even a baby. There's nothing there. You're so early. Let's get it taken care of in the next couple of days. There is nothing there but a blob of tissue, clump of cells. That's it. There's no baby there yet. So let's get you in right away. So between her and my boyfriend and my situation, it was easy to manipulate and lie to me into believing this was the best choice. But here's another thing that'll blow your mind. I'm driving myself to the abortion clinic 20 minutes from my apartment, get a sitter for my little girls. My boyfriend can't take me. He's got some business thing, so he's out of town. And as I'm driving to the abortion clinic, I have my hand on my stomach, telling this blob of tissue, clump of cells, this unhuman person, I'm so sorry for what I'm about to do. But this is the best choice for you. My life is a mess, and you don't want to be in this mess of my life. It is the worst thing I could ever do to you. So please forgive me for what I'm about to do. Yet I blindly walked into an abortion clinic, laid on a table, and let that abortionist kill my baby for $350. I can remember looking up at the ceiling, Jason, and it's like it was an out of body experience. I felt my mouth saying the words, "Stop it, stop it. I've changed my mind. Vic, what the hell are you doing?"
Wow.
But I could not speak. I was paralyzed with the fear of my boyfriend being angry, with the situation I was in, as a single mother, how I was struggling and didn't even know how I was going to pay rent. And now these doctors making them angry. What are they going to do? Because they were so cold and they had no compassion for me. When I gave the woman the $350, before I gave it to her, Jason, we were in her office before they put the gown on me and took me into the room. She looked at me and I was crying and I said, "Oh my gosh, are you sure? Are you sure?" This is the same woman I had talked to on the phone who secured my appointment. I have 2 children. I know the outcome of a pregnancy. I've had a friend who had abortion. Are you sure I'm doing the right thing? And she took my hand. "Oh, honey, remember what I told you on the phone? This is the best choice for you. You're so young. You can have children later. You are doing the right thing for you and your precious babies. When you leave here, never think of this again." And I gave her $350 cash. She put it in the drawer. She slammed it shut, stuck her finger in my face. And just so you know, you change your mind when you're on that table. We don't give refunds here.
Wow. As you were telling that story, I was thinking, well, there must be so many people that work at the abortion clinic that think they're doing this for women. And this woman sounds so kind and compassionate, but she was just a salesperson.
She was demonic. I saw her
just a
completely
salesperson. Once she got your money, that's how the devil works, right? Once you commit the sin, then you should feel guilt. God will never forgive you. Once you got the money.
When I was laying, 100%, that's it. And so I'm laying on the table and it's over. And it took all of 10 minutes. I mean, they took my baby that day, but they never took the memory of my baby, ever. And when he was walking out, this short little white-haired man, as he's walking out the door, he didn't even speak to me except to say, "Scoot down and spread your legs." That's about it. I yelled out after him. I finally could talk. And I was crying. And I said, excuse me. Can you just please tell me what it was? Was it a girl or was it a boy?" He turned and looked at me and said, "I don't have time for this. I've got other people to see. You're too early for me to tell." And he walked out and slammed the door.
Was it too early?
It was. Well, it was for him, apparently, but God revealed to me as I started healing what my baby was. And it was a boy. Yeah. And I have 4 daughters, and I have now 4 son-in-laws who I love dearly, who love me. But my only son I killed. So I have to live with that.
So sorrowful.
So I do what I do, Jason, because I refuse to let my child die in vain. And I know tens of thousands of children are alive today because of my work, because there's a video out there of me I've heard has 18 million streams. I know there are children alive today that were spared from abortion because my son died.
Yeah, isn't that the mystery of evil and how one responds to it? My wife had said something to me earlier or late last year around Christmas time. My little organization has been sheltering, and we fed tens of thousands of Afghans through the winter and provided coal for heat, and we've been evacuating and resettling Afghans. And she said, isn't it strange that if your child wasn't aborted, all of these Afghans would be dying? And it's just, it's a mystery.
Wow. It is a mystery, Jason, because I believe, and by the way, I want to say thank you to you guys for what you're doing in Afghanistan. Buddy, I am so proud to call you my friend. So thank you for that. But it is a mystery, Jason, and I do think that God takes what the enemy meant for evil to destroy us and can turn it into good if we let him do it, just like my abortion story. And I've seen him do it time and time again. But I have my second daughter, Tawny, is 37 years old. And that same man who abandoned us wanted me to abort her when I told him I was pregnant. And we were married. And I was like, wait, what? And he said, I don't want another one. I like it the way it is. Well, unbeknownst to me, he was screwing everything in town in Hickory, North Carolina, where we lived. And he didn't want to tell one of his girlfriends that his wife was pregnant, I guess. He just wanted out. And so he's going on and on and on. And I had an abortion appointment, Jason. And the morning of the abortion, this is 2 years prior to going through with an abortion. The morning of the abortion, he had been telling me for 4 or 5 days. And get this, same woman 2 years later that I talked to on the phone, same woman who secured me an appointment for my second daughter. And so as I'm talking to him, because I had to drive the hour and a half to Charlotte, he couldn't take me, Jason, because he had a softball tournament he wasn't going to miss. So I had to ask a friend of mine to take me. So she's in the driveway waiting. Every day from Tuesday, Wednesday up to this Saturday morning, I had begged him, please don't make me do this. Please don't make me do this. We're married. Married people don't have abortions. What if it's the son you've always wanted? We already had a daughter. She was 3. And he said, if you don't do it, I'll divorce you. And you better go through with it or you're going to tell our daughter why her daddy left. And I mean, compounded by the woman on the phone saying, this is the best thing for your marriage. Do you want to do that to your little girl? Take her daddy away? All of these things.
Wow, I thought it was a woman's right to choose. It is never a woman's right to choose.
No, it's not. So
men are, this is why I can't forgive men. They're the drivers in so many of these abortions.
Well, listen. All right. So I'm in the kitchen, standing there making his egg whites with his lime green shorts.
Is he one of these guys? Is he one of these guys? He's in lime green. Can I pick on him? He's wearing lime green shorts, and he won't have egg yolk because he's watching his cholesterol. What a doofus. So
I tapped him on the shoulder. My friend's in the driveway. And he could tell I was not on the same page as him again. And I said, I'm crying again, as I had been for days. And I'm thinking, all right, Vic, you got one more shot. Beg him. Maybe this is the moment. Please tell me you've changed your mind. Please don't make me do this. Please don't. He said, let me tell you something. If you don't do it, I'm telling you right now, I will be out of here. I will divorce you, and you can tell our daughter why her family broke up. So I walked down the stairs at a split level. I put my hand on the doorknob. I turn around and look up, and he's standing there in that softball uniform with his arms crossed, looking at me with so much hatred. And I said, one last time, Jason, true story, hand to God. Okay, let me make it clear one more time. And I'm bawling. If I don't walk out this door and get in the car with her and go to Charlotte and get this done, you're really going to leave me and Taryn? You're really going to leave us? And you'll divorce me? For the last time, you better get out there right now and you better go do what I've told you to do. And when you get back, I'll take you to Jones Fish Camp tonight, because that was my favorite fish camp. I loved their scallops. That's what he said to me. So here's what I said to him. I don't know where this came from. I always believe it came from those intercessors that are praying every single day since Roe for abortion, for women who are contemplating abortion, for God to intervene. I looked at him, something from within this 20-year-old broken woman who had been abused by this guy since she was 16 years old, looked up at him and said, then you better start packing. I can't do it.
God.
And I walked out and I tapped on the window of my friend. And I get emotional when I tell this too, because if you met my daughter, Tawny, I can't imagine my life without that girl. And I said to my friend, Jason, I'm so sorry I made you get up so early because it was 7 a.m. I said, I'm so sorry you came out here. And she looked at me and smiled. And I found out later that she'd been praying too. She was going to support me, but she was praying too. And I said, I'm so sorry that you came. And she goes, it's okay, Vic. Don't even worry about it. Her name was Grace, Jason. That
Praise God.
was her name. Her name was Grace. And 2 days later, after his tournament was over, that now ex-husband of mine, because he did divorce me, beat me so bad, kicked me in the stomach and put me in the hospital, and she still survived. So I had to reconcile with God. Why did you save her from abortion? But 2 years later, you allowed me to walk in the door. And I've had to reconcile that. And I'll tell you what, God has used both of their lives, both Tawny's life and the child I aborted's life, for me to do good in the world and to honor my child. And my daughter Tawny travels with me some and speaks at churches and fundraising banquets for pregnancy centers, and she'll always get up there. She's so funny, Jason. You'd love her. She's awesome. And she'll get up there and people don't realize that's why she's there. I tell the story in a way that they think I've chosen abortion this time. And she comes out of the crowd and I say, I want you to meet the most beautiful blob of tissue you've ever seen. And she comes to the crowd and she says, thanks for not killing me, Mom. Just because everyone's so emotional to kind of break the ice. And then she tells her own story of being pro-life. But I'll tell you, I don't understand it either, Jason, why your child died for you to do the work you're doing. I don't think we'll have those answers until we meet him face to face. But by gosh, people can try to shut me up all day long. They shut me up when I laid on that table and aborted my son. They will not shut me up until I'm dead.
I think they got the memo. I think the abortion industry got the memo that they're not shutting up post-abortive people. And it's those of us who are post-abortive that really, I believe, is driving the successes that we're having, because you can't shut us up.
Mm-mm. And more healed people, Jason, there will be more of us speaking up. And that's why I'm convinced it's the backdoor approach of ending abortion. More healed people will talk, maybe not like we are out in the public eye, but they'll speak to their neighbor. They'll speak to their coworkers, as I said, their children. If they just tell one. 70 million abortions since Roe v. Wade. That's 140 million potential women who've had abortions, the women who've had abortions, but also the men who participated. If a small number of 10% of them find healing, you can't keep your mouth shut when God forgives you and heals you of having an abortion. You can't, because
no, you don't want anyone. You don't want anyone else to go through it. You know.
Of course not. You want to tell them you don't want to make this choice. Let me tell you where I had to walk. And I had one girl that wrote me on Instagram, and she said, I've been following you for a while. I really respect you. I love who you are. I'm pregnant, but I am going to have an abortion because you've turned out great. So I know it'll hurt and all that, and it's going to affect me, but I'll just go. And I got her phone number. I said, give me your phone number. And I told her, I said, you are not going to use my abortion to condone yours.
Yeah, was that a troll or was she sincere?
No, she was a real live person. She did choose life, but she was convinced, and this is why I tell people, you don't see, which I talk about it openly, but what they don't see all the time with women like me or with men like you, they see our passion and they see how I'm helping others and where I've come, how far I've come. What they didn't see is how hard it was to get here. So what they don't see, Jason, are the days that I'm on the floor in the fetal position, grieving the loss of my aborted child. I had a woman come up to me once when I spoke, in the last few years, and she said, are you sure you're okay? And she was a sweet, precious woman, had a banquet. It was a pregnancy center banquet. And I said, what do you mean? She goes, you just got so emotional when you were sharing. And I said, yeah, that happens sometimes. Do you have children? And she said, I do. I have 3. Well, what would happen if you lost one? She goes, oh my gosh, I would be devastated. I said, exactly. So sometimes I openly grieve, and I'll always grieve. So that's the thing people don't see, is the aftermath of abortion. And yes, I'm healed. Yes, I'm walking in forgiveness. that doesn't mean the residuals there. Think about it, Jason. If you're a girl who's pregnant out of wedlock and you're a Christian, you run to the altar and you say, God, forgive me for having premarital sex. He's going to forgive her, but she's still pregnant. There are consequences to the choices we.
No, you're right. And, your story about that young woman saying, oh, look, you turned out great. I had a couple that heard me speak. And the young girl got pregnant, and the boyfriend did exactly what this girl did. He said to her, well, look at Jason. You get the abortion, and then the two of us can go and give speeches about how our abortion impacted us and hurt us. And I thought, what a sociopath.
Yeah.
I mean, and what a sociopath. And I wasn't supposed to know this conversation happened, so I don't think he's listening to this show. But I couldn't even look the guy in the face, and he kind of came out of our tribe. And I just thought, what a sicko. I did not share my abortion story for the first 11 years. I started in 89, and then I graduated in 98, was in grad school, was speaking at 1999, so it was 10 years. I was speaking at it was to a catechism class or something at St. Jude Catholic Church in Honolulu. And they were 8th graders and freshmen. And this girl, I think, was in 8th grade. And as I began to speak about my abortion, she's probably 13, her arms went across her waist, and I saw a tear come down her cheek. She was hugging her womb. And then, like, I had stabbed her. And it just struck me that this girl had an abortion. And I said out loud, I said, I heard it said that whenever you point a finger at somebody, 3 fingers are pointing back at you. And so I don't want any of you to think that if any of your family or friends have ever had an abortion, that I'm pointing my finger at them. Because I'm really pointing 3 fingers at myself. Why am I even here? And then I told my story for the first time. I mean, I shared it with friends who were considering abortion, and that was it. And when people found out, even people who went to college with me, and they knew that I founded the Pro-Life Student Union, and I was chairman of the College Republicans, and always talking about abortion, I never told them. Because I didn't think it was my story to tell, And, but yeah, to see this girl. So I started telling my story, and then to hear this guy talk about that he has a plan that they're going to go get abortions and then hit the Catholic speaker circuit talking about their abortion just strikes me as just so unbelievable, so manipulative. But then yet you had the same exact thing happen to you. Uncanny.
That's just gross. Absolutely gross to me. I have had many moments, Jason, where I think, golly, I wish I was a paralegal still. And that because of, I don't have a story like this to tell. And, but I do. And that's why I'll keep telling it, because I know that not just people need to hear it so they won't choose abortion, or they'll shift their paradigms as to how they view the life issue and the abortion issue. But I want to make sure I'm also sensitive to those who've had abortions. A girl recently told me that was at my retreat this past weekend in Texas. She said, I found you through Instagram, and then I saw you sharing your abortion story, and I was sitting there listening to you going, she does realize she's telling people this. And that's crazy to me. But that's how much shame there is, that people think, I won't, oh God, no way. How can she even tell people she actually had an abortion? Because I've been healed.
And was this somebody who would have considered themselves pro-choice?
This was someone who was pro-choice and had an abortion at 14 weeks.
And yet thought that it was so shameful that you would publicly share it.
Yes. But now she had become pro-life because she had a miscarriage this year. And the abortion from 2-3 years ago came flooding back.
This is what happens, right? The pregnancies, the miscarriages, and then people wake up to the reality of the abortion.
Of what they really did. Jason, my third daughter, when I married someone that I should have never married, but when you're post-abortive, you do a lot of things you shouldn't do that you think, whatever, I don't deserve this or that or whatever. But when I was pregnant with my third daughter and I was married, I have been divorced for 16 years now. I started spotting at about 6 weeks pregnant. Now, this is back in the time when I was still burying my abortion, still answering the question at the OBGYN that said, have you ever had an abortion? Nope. And never admitting it, which is what most post-abortive women do. I had to go to the doctor because I was spotting and he wanted to do an ultrasound. He's doing an ultrasound on me at between 6 and 8 weeks, exactly the same time when I aborted my baby. And I just lost it on the table. And he's rubbing my arm, trying to calm me down. The doctor showing me on the ultrasound, Victoria, everything's fine. The baby's fine. You're fine. And he didn't know.
Or maybe he did know.
Time. Well, he didn't. I did end up telling him.
Okay.
But at that moment, he thought I was emotional because I thought I was having a miscarriage, which I did think I was having a miscarriage because I thought, God, of course I'm having a miscarriage. God's not going to bless me with a baby just because I want one now and I'm married. He's going to take this baby for what I did as my punishment, which is not what God does, but that is what the post-abortive woman believes.
And men too. That's something that I felt. I was vigilant in protecting my children, over the top.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's what we do. That's what we do. We are. I really wish you would consider coming through I don't have it scheduled yet because I'm working on it now. But my goal is by spring I will do my very first men's reassemble retreat.
I'll be there.
Same thing as women. I would love you to come through.
I'll be there to tell the other men, I think you're a punk. I don't even like
and they
you.
might look at you and think, well, we think you're one too.
I don't even want to look at you.
You know what? They
bro.
probably look at you and say, well, we love you, Jason. And then that's what's going to break you.
Yeah, I'm kidding. Look, these are some of my best friends, and I tell them straight up, you haven't sold me yet. You need to work harder. You haven't sold me that you're regretful, you're remorseful yet. You need to work a little harder.
Golly, Jason, who died and made you Jesus?
No. I'm the football coach. Someone wrote me a letter, and they said, and they were not being nice. This was a guy who thought a lot of himself, but wasn't very bright. And he goes, you're not, he was responding to my book, The Race to Save Our Century, that I wrote with John Zmirak. And he said, you're not an intellectual, He was some Catholic leftist. He says, you're nothing more than the football coach of the pro-life movement. And I said, I'll take that. That's awesome. The football coach. That's great. That is how I see myself. Like I want to, get the most out of everybody and everyone. I want everyone to lean in and fight harder. So if that's how he, called me the football coach of the pro-life movement, that
Jason,
is fine.
I think there's unresolved pain and heartache in you. And listen, we're not ever going to ever, even if you lose a living child, we're not ever going to be completely whole. A part of us dies when our children, it's not natural to kill our own children. So that's never going to go away. But you can walk in fullness and freedom and healing. It's like I told you about the phone call. That's when my healing came full circle, was when I released him and forgave him, because holding on to it was doing me no good. So I'm dead serious. As soon as I have the first
No, I'll come, but I do think that men and women are so different. And I think men do heal by burying their claws and not licking their wounds. And I want to see men more active. And I think this is how you heal. David Mamet, the great playwright, wrote that he writes for the same reason beavers gnaw on wood, because his teeth itch. And when I know there are children suffering violence, whether it's they're being hunted by ISIS-K because of their ethnicity or religion in Afghanistan, or they're hiding from Saudi Arabia's vicious drone program in Yemen, or it's a child in the womb, like my teeth itch. And that's just what it is. And I am angry. When I see State Department officials, taking holidays in the midst of the collapse of Afghanistan, rather than working overtime and getting our SIV qualified Afghans to safety, I am angry. Look, 1 out of 3 men are post-abortive. 1 out of 3 politically active conservative Republicans are post-abortive. And I just want them to step up a little more. That's all. Look, I get it. Hey,
there's nothing wrong with righteous.
I think if you're post-abortive man, we have more of a responsibility to work harder, donate more. I just believe that.
Yes, but think about this, Jason. Our society has emasculated men for decades. We told them, sit down, shut up. So they don't know what they're allowed to say and what they're not allowed to say. So once they have permission, which is why the abortion industry wants to keep their mouths shut, They're worried about men standing up and stepping up and saying, hey, I forced her to have it. I paid for her to do it. I threatened her if she didn't. And I'm here to tell you I was wrong. I made a mistake, and it's time for me to not keep my mouth shut about it. So I'm telling you, they don't know what to say because we have said, sit down in the corner, shut up, mister. We don't even need you to have children anymore.
Yeah, this is what I'll tell them. I don't ask people permission to speak.
Exactly. But you're an anomaly, my friend. There are men like you out there, but listen, buddy, I've been single a long time, and I can tell you that I go out with Christian, and I use that term loosely, men who are not godly. And I've learned there is a big difference. I used to never think there was until the last 5-6 years of being single. There are Christian men and there are godly men. And that's why I'm still single. There are men like you, Jason, who are fighting the good fight are few. Women like me who are offering help to people who've had abortions without condemnation or judgment, and even doing it at all, sharing my story. There are millions of us who've had abortions, but a very small percentage who are sharing their story.
No, that's true. Look, if you're a man, I don't want any man that's listening to me. If you're a man and you're listening to Jason Jones Show and you're active in the pro-life movement and you're post-abortive, that's one thing. But when I hear men want to cry me a river about their involvement in abortion and they're 50 years old and I can't look at their life and see committed action,
some kind of fruit from what they did.
Yeah, I want to see them working hard. I want to see them work hard. I'd like to see Brett McGurk rebuilding Iraq. How about that? David Frum and Brett McGurk and David Brooks and Bill Kristol and all the neoconservatives that advocated toppling Saddam. You know, that was a mistake. I don't believe you because I don't see you helping the people of Iraq. You know, if I see a State Department officials cry about this tragedy of Afghanistan as they're going to Soul Cycle and drinking a latte, as Afghans are hiding in attics from terrorists that are hunting them, I don't believe them. And that's my only point. My only point is I want to see post-abortive men who are speaking out about their abortions, or if they're not, I say really bare your claws, work hard. No one needs to give you permission to speak up. Speak up. If they tell you to shut up, you tell them to shut up. The one thing I love is when someone tells me what to say or not to say. I get emails. Jason, I was listening to your podcast, and I don't think you should say. Yeah, don't tell me what to say. I don't tell you what to say. Don't. And so I think that this idea that people, even Christians and conservatives, have become so politically correct in a way where no one has to agree with me, but I'm going to say what I think. And if I'm wrong, great. I'll apologize and correct myself. But you've been saying you're wrong throughout this podcast about how you feel towards men who are post-abortive. So at least you're admitting it. You know, you get incensed about people not helping in Afghanistan. I can imagine that would piss me off too. You know what I get pissed off about, Jason? The fact that pastors on Sunday mornings after Roe was overturned didn't even speak about it. That pastors or Christians are saying, hey, you guys, you need to calm down. I don't know if you've seen Allie Stuckey's latest podcast, but you got to just go watch it. I mean, it's insane what these Christians are saying, and they're basically telling people like us, hey, you need to stop rubbing it in their face. I'm like, are you kidding me? 50 years we've prayed for this, and you think I'm not going to give God glory and celebrate what just happened? I mean, what I think is comical, Jason, that I love, God has such a sense of humor, and he loves to show us, you people think you're in control. We had President Trump in office who appointed 3 Supreme Court nominees that were pro-life. We have the most pro-death, pro-abortion administration and a buffoon in the White House right now. Yeah, and that's when Roe is overturned. I think it's awesome. and Victoria, and it was Trump. Do you know I met Trump? Was looking to hire folks, building a political team in 2011. And I was flown to New York City to meet him at the Palm 2. And he had a table. The rest of us were sitting at a big table eating these great steaks. And then one by one, we were called up to meet with Mr. Trump. And when it was my turn, I looked him in the eye and I said, Mr. Trump, I came here because I guess you're thinking of running for national office. And I wanted to come here to tell you I will never work for you, and that you will never be president of the United States. And he looked at me like, what? But he didn't say anything. But his eyes did and his face did. And I said, because I will stop you in Iowa. He said, well, why would you be opposed to me running for president? I said, because you're not pro-life. And he nodded and he said, well, and I said, the reason I came here is so these grifters who are convincing you to run don't take too much of your money because they know you'll never win because you're not pro-life. So and he shooed me away and I went and ate my steak. And so when he, a couple months later, had his pro-life conversion, I really thought it was fake. I said, okay, this guy's not sincere, but he's done the math and he realizes he needs to have the pro-life imprimatur to get through Iowa and the Carolinas and da-da-da. But then as I watched his presidency unfold, something struck me and I went back and watched all his old interviews. Trump he never had a pro-life conversion. Never. He was always pro-life. He just said the pieties he needed to say as a businessman to be left alone in New York City to do his business. Whenever he was asked about abortion, go look at the old videos in the 90s. He just puts his hands up like, don't talk about it. He says, I don't like this subject. And then he'll just agree to whatever he thinks the gods of the city want to hear. And I think when Trump realized that he could express what he always felt, he did it with abandon. And we owe Donald Trump the overturning of Roe versus Wade. It's literally unbelievable.
100%. And I love that it happened under Biden's watch. I love it. And I had an interviewer at Al Jazeera interview me, and she said, what do you think about the majority of people thinking that Trump is faking it just for your side to vote for him and agree with or believe he's this person he's not? And I remember thinking, what an idiot. So I said, listen, I don't personally know President Trump. I don't know his heart, but here's what I do know. That man has done more for the pro-life cause than any president in our history. That's what matters to me. And it shut her up. But because it's true, and I do believe he's.
Do you remember what show is that? I used to book for Al Jazeera a lot of pro-lifers. Did I get you that interview? Do you remember?
No, that was, they reached out to Linda Klosterman. It's the third one I've done. I've done 3 with them ever since because.
I wonder if I'd introduce, I'm close to Al Jazeera through my work in the Middle East. So that's awesome that they booked you through Linda.
Yeah, I'll send you the link.
What's great about that is, Al Jazeera's audience is pro-life, but so many of their hosts are not.
I know that, Jason, but the reporter that I just did one with right after Roe, he basically cut me off because he didn't like my answer of the last question he asked me was.
A lot of the hosts are snide, but their audience is with us.
Yeah, it was all about Prime Minister Trudeau thinks it's barbaric what you've done in America. And I said, well, let me tell you what about Prime Minister Trudeau. What's barbaric is he supports abortion up to birth, and he should worry about his own country, not ours. And he said, okay, well, thank you for being here. And he cut me off.
Yeah, well, that's it. But guess what? They're losing. Here's the thing about these pastors that are saying shush are these Christian quote unquote influencers, which is if you identify as a Christian influencer, you're a knucklehead. But these quote unquote Christian, I'm a Christian influencer, I'm a creative, I'm an influencer. Okay, whatever.
Yeah,
we shouldn't talk about. Don't rub it in their face. It's not rubbing it in their face. It's demoralizing the opposition, and I want to demoralize the opposition because we're going to march on until there's full legal protection from Maine to Miami, from Washington, D.C. to San Diego and Honolulu. This is going to happen. And so whatever. But here's the great thing about it. Father James Martin and all these leftist, never Trumper types, and they don't get to participate in this great celebration. And Victoria, they all think that they're at the cool table. They're embarrassed by us.
Yep.
They're not. We're at the cool table. They haven't figured that out yet.
We are.
We are the cool table. You can come here, but you just got to act right.
Jason, when I accepted Christ and I became a Christian, I remember reading in the Bible, the road is narrow and few will find it. And this is honest to God's truth. I looked around at this church and it was packed with people, several thousand people. It was a big church in Concord, North Carolina. And I remember thinking, well, Lord, as a new Christian, this has got to be a typo. Look at all the people in church. Now I get it. I think when the rapture happens, if people that believe in the rapture, that the prisons are going to be empty and some of the churches are going to be full.
Yeah, and I might be here. I don't believe in the rapture, but that's why the reason I titled my book, I do believe in the rapture. It happened. Mary went. We're all here. It's called The Assumption of the Blessed Virgin. But
and it doesn't matter to me who believes in what. What matters to me is that I was making a point.
No, I get you. No, and I think we need to work. I don't know your theology, but I believe, as Paul said, that we need to work our salvation through fear and trembling. And I don't know any of your sins other than, what was the one you confessed to that I thought was kind of blasé? Oh, being rude to your grandma.
I agree.
Okay. Okay. That's all I know. That's it. That's my list. And you had an abortion. So I have 2 sins. I know every single sin that I've ever done. And so I think all of us should assume that of everyone we know, we're probably the least likely to go to heaven, because based on the information that we have, I have a hard heart. I'm broken. I was born in rocky soil, praying for the Holy Spirit to till it. But I am grateful for all my brokenness, because, I want to be small. I was last in my class before I dropped out of high school. Was a teen parent. I'm grateful for all of these things, because when you look up at everyone, you're surrounded by people you admire, and that's where I live in this life. I'm surrounded by people. I'm always looking up to people. The only people I really look down on are these, and I really do, God forgive me, these types of Christian, like you said, the influencers or the pastors who are like, well, we shouldn't talk about this. I'm like, who do you think you are? Who do you think? You're not very bright. You're not charismatic. You're not a good public speaker. Your sermons are crap. Your books are horrible. And you're going to sit here and tell me what to do? Nah, shush. Shushy shush.
It's just gross. It's so gross. And you know what, Jason? We have a lot of similar childhoods. My father was an alcoholic. I mean, as far as the way it looks on paper, we shouldn't be where we are today. My father was an alcoholic. He beat my mother. He was a womanizer. He would take me with him and have me in the living room playing with his girlfriend's kids while he was upstairs having his way with her. I mean, it was pretty crazy. Then I get married at 16 years old. I'm divorced by 21 with 2 little kids. I get married again. I get divorced. I have 2 more children. All those things that have happened. When I say to people, I'm like, let me tell you why I love Jesus so much. Because it's only by the grace of God that I have survived my childhood and survived my young adult life, because I made some really stupid decisions that should never have put me where I am today. And so that's why the same thing. There are people in my life that are wonderful friends, and you included, that I consider amazing people that I am so thankful and blessed to have in my life and part of my life. But if you looked at my past, you'd say, how did you get here? Because we are who we are because of where we've been, Jason. And I refuse to be a victim of where I've been. I'm a survivor.
Praise God. Well, we are so grateful for you. And, you are beloved across the pro-life movement, and the work that you do is so important. We're a movement of broken people. It's a movement led and driven by post-abortive women mostly. And I think the other side is too, right? It's kind of the great sorrow that the battle over abortion in America on both sides are primarily, both sides, I guess, are led by women. The abortion industry infuses cash into the quote unquote, I'll give them what do they call themselves? Reproductive rights movement, whatever. The pro-choice side is infused with cash from a vile industry. But I bet you a lot of the most sincere people are women who are post-abortive. And our movement's driven by post-abortive women. So the work that you're doing is very important. And, we need field hospitals. We're on a battlefield, and the wounded are fighting the war. So we need to tend to the wounded on both sides.
We do. And if anybody's listening needs to get in touch with me, or they need help because they've chosen abortion, they're considering abortion, they know somebody who has or is, you can find me at my website, victoriarobinson.org, and I will help you walk that journey, answer your questions. I'll answer your questions about abortion, adoption, and parenting. I'm not going to lie to you or manipulate the truth, so I'm going to tell you the truth. And I'm convinced, Jason, I'll leave you with this, that the people that are so pro-choice, that are some of those that are screaming about abortion, they're broken people, and many of them have had abortions, or those, they have someone they love who's had an abortion. So they feel if they go the other side, it's like a slap in the face of that person they love who chose abortion. And I am convinced of that fact, because many people that I've met who are pro-choice have said to me, well, I had an abortion, or my daughter had an abortion. I could never be pro-life. She'll think I hate her. So I think it's all about education. It's all about healing. And we've got to speak up, speak out, and not ever let the pro-death, pro-abortion side silence us, because that's what they want to do, because they know when we speak out, people hear the truth, and it's common sense. And then they have to stop and think about it, because today you cannot plead ignorance any longer.
No, and I'm glad you brought that up. I think so many who are really adamant on the pro-choice side it's more about defending the honor and the feelings and the dignity of someone that they really love. Mm-hmm. And they see us as an enemy or someone who's judging and condemning them, which we're not. I think I made clear the only people I judge and condemn are men.
Yeah, I know. You just made that perfect.
I made that clear. All right, Victor, I'm going to have to do I'm going to do a new introduction, because I do feel I was very honest and I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. But, I wanted to bring that up because I'm really grateful for you writing that book. And I'm probably the last person you would expect to kind of grapple with that as a post-abortive man. But I would say that is my blind spot. And that is something that I really do grapple with.
I want you to know I respect where you're at, though. I respect that the spirit in which you're angry. I don't think it's one of you want to kill all these people and you hate them all. I think it's in a spirit of I want you to do more.
Buck up, Buttercup. That's it. Buck up, Buttercup.
Grow a pair and be the men that we need to be for these women and these families and these children. So I appreciate that, and I love you for that, Jason. But we're going to work on your heart.
Work on my heart. I got a hard heart. I had to today. I was so angry. A little more therapy session. I just have this Afghan family that I'm helping, and they're close to me, and I adore them and I love them, and they've gotten a lot more support than others. And I just kind of felt like they were taking advantage of me. And I yelled at them and I said, "Don't mistake my big heart for a small brain." But maybe I don't have a big heart either. Just a small heart and a small brain.
And I'm very thankful that you're in the fight. I go in the trenches. And I'm glad to be in the trenches of this fight with you, Jason. You're a good dude.
Well, you are a wonderful woman. This is a great time. And Father Pavone was on the show this week, and he said that he said something I thought was a great expression. He said the Supreme Court has opened the door, and now we have an opportunity to walk through that door and create a culture of life. But the door can shut, or we as a nation can walk through that door and under the structure of Roe, the ruling of Roe, continue to erect a culture of death. So all that really happened was a door was open, and we need to run through that door, not half step or pitter patter, but run through that door, and not for us, but for our yet to be born posterity. Because the idea that we could leave our descendants a community, a political community grounded in the inviolable dignity of the human person, and the way that will work its way through our culture and through our laws to have a genuinely humane society is really exciting to me. And we're not going to live in that society. As Frodo said, we save the Shire, but not for us. But to know that we can save the Shire, that's what I think this month has been for a lot of us in the movement, right? We see that this possibility has been presented to us to leave our descendants a beautiful political community.
Yeah, that's so good. And I've got 10 grandchildren. And when people say to me, why are you still in this fight? You're not ever going to have kids again, et cetera. Why do you care what's going to happen in the future? I said, I look at my 10 grandchildren. That's why. And long after I'm gone, I want them and my great-grandchildren and generations to come to say, our Mimi fought in that fight.
Mimi fought for us.
Mimi fought, and she fought for a better world for us. And that's why I keep doing it, not just for the death of my child and millions of others and friends and new friends that I've met who've experienced the trauma of abortion, but for the future generations to come. So you're right. We're going to do our part. But let's be honest, Jason, I don't know about you, but I never in a million years thought I would see Roe overturned in my lifetime.
I'm going to blow your mind. And people who've worked for me, they've all seen my 40-year plan. I wrote a 40-year plan to end abortion in 1991. And it was crazy. You know, here I am, an infantryman, and I'm writing, I'll produce movies, I'll run political campaigns. It's strange. But I put in 2022, we'll overturn Roe versus Wade. And in 2031, we will have a human life amendment to the Constitution. And that was sort of the two big, everything pointed to those two big markers in my plan. In fact, in my original plan in 1991, I put that I would run for governor of Hawaii in 2022, because that's when the battle would move from the federal to the states. And when I left Hawaii in 2000 to start working in D.C., a lot of my friends had said, well, you know, I was chairman of the Young Republicans, and they said, well, you know, you can have a political career here, you can run for state house. I said, it won't do any good to be in the state house. You see me in 2022, I'll come back and run for office. And so when we left Hawaii, when I realized it was just totally untenable to keep my children there and keep them locked down, I really was planning on potentially running for governor this year. But now there's some good guys running, and there's real opportunity, and who knows what the future holds. But I'm really committed to a pro-life Hawaii. It's the most pro-life state in the union, which no one would believe because of how we vote. But the sentiment and the culture of what's called Hanai, adoption, and in the next 10 years, we will see Hawaii be a pro-life state. You know, Victoria, when I was in Hawaii, I did not feel any glee. I was in Hawaii for my daughter's wedding. I felt no relief or no excitement, or I didn't feel anything about Roe overturning. And it wasn't until I came back to Texas that my heart leapt. And it hit me on one of the podcasts I was doing. In the conversation, it hit me that the reason I didn't feel anything in Hawaii is because it means nothing for Hawaii. And the reason I felt glee once I got to Texas was because I realized that I'm living in a pro-life polity right now. And I can't wait till Hawaii is a pro-life polity, and I can't wait till Massachusetts is a pro-life community, and California is a pro-life state. And I am very confident that we'll see all of that in the next 10 years. And you can bring me on your show, and I can walk you through how it's going to happen. But the thing being, it's going to be, here's the thing that I wrote an article about this. The unexpected consequences of Roe overturning is there's going to be an eruption of pro-life Democrats running for office. There's 7,000 state house seats in America, 500,000 elected offices. The abortion industry has sat on Congress, and they've really blocked pro-life Democrats from rising to be able to run for Congress, for House or Senate. That those days are over. They are not going to be able to do the same thing with 7,000 state house seats. Of course, there are so many pro-life Democrats in the state legislatures across the country, and now they're not going to be able to stop them from ascending, because the battle is really at the states. So I think, as we see the rise of the pro-life Democrats, there will be no pro-abortion Republicans left, and the half-stepping straw fighters, like straw soldiers like Mitt Romney, will be swept away, and we'll have a pro-life Republican Party and an increasingly pro-life Democrat Party, and they will march us to pro-life country by 2031. That is my prediction.
Well, I am going to receive it, and I love it. It's very encouraging, and I believe it. I'm going to believe it with you.
Praise God. Well, I took a lot of your time.
I don't care. I'm just thinking, is this going to be a 2 or 3 part show? We've been talking for 3 hours.
Listen, this is crazy. My producer and Mudhouse Media, I do shows for 3 hours. Sometimes they're a half hour, whatever. My rule is I'm consistently inconsistent. I do shows when I want, for as long as I want. That's it. Sorry.
Well, hey, you can bring me back anytime. I got plenty more to talk about.
80% of listeners finish the show regardless of how long it is. We have
wow.
It doesn't make any sense.
Kudos to you guys for listening to us then for this long.
Right? It doesn't make any sense to me, but I'm grateful. I think part of it is my rule is I just talk to you like you and I would talk at the Dubliner.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, that's the way I love to do any kind of podcast interview or any kind of conversation. I would just want to have a conversation. If we start having, you and I are on the same page, but I also believe if we can have civil conversations with people across the aisle that are on the opposite end of what we believe, or the opposite side, that's where change is going to happen. If we just listen to each other, there's going to be those who it doesn't matter what you say, but I truly believe there are those who are right on the fence, Jason, and they just need to be pushed a little bit.
Yeah.
And get.
Kristen Hawkins said there was an article that just came out where the left conceded that the problem, we're never going to win until we can listen to them, because they listen to us. They listen to us and they answer our questions, but we've never listened to them. And I would like them to listen to us. And I really do try to listen to them. And I really do. And I know you do too. And I really try to understand them. And when I'm at an event and there's a rally and there's both sides present, I understand that these people, most of them, have a vision of the human person and they want a flourishing and humane society. We've experienced things differently. And sometimes our experiences push us to truth. And sometimes our experiences could lead us into error. And I believe that our experiences pointed us to the truth of human dignity, and their experiences distracted them from the heart of the question in abortion. But I think I want to have these conversations, and I'm hoping in the coming weeks on this 49 days in a row of podcasts, we're going to get folks on the other side as well.
I believe it's you know why? We've got the truth on our side, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to see the truth. And it also, as I said already, people can no longer plead ignorance anymore. At one time they could, but they cannot do it any longer. So they're faced with the reality of what abortion is, what it isn't. And then guess what, buddy? Guess what, miss? It's time to make a choice. And I'm not talking about an abortion. I'm talking about, do you really believe this is the right way? Or do you really believe this is? And if you don't know, then ask questions and get them answered.
Yeah, that's it. Well, Victoria Robinson, thank you for giving me your whole day. And your website is victoriarobinson.org. You have a new book out, They Lied to Us Too. And anywhere else you want to point us?
No, I just want to tell you, I'm on Facebook and Instagram. I got rid of Twitter during the last election.
Me
so
too.
You can find me
Steve Bannon got so mad at me. I told him I deleted my Twitter account when they suspended Trump. He goes, "What, are you, an idiot?"
I did the same thing.
And
you know what?
Nah, I'm so happy for it.
Followers, but I haven't had to deal with it. I don't care. I just don't care. Instagram, Facebook, those are the only two social media. I mean, I did the Trump social, whatever, Truth Social. I don't know the name of it. I haven't even really done anything. I just secured my name. But those are the two where you can find me on social media. And then you can write me through my website, victoriarobinson.org. I would love to come back on anytime, Jason. I will be in your neck of the woods. Well, I'm not really sure. I'm going to be in Phoenix in a few weeks at a conference there. And I was just in El Paso, Texas over the weekend. I flew in there, and then I did one of my retreats in New Mexico. So
I'm so jealous. Where were you in New Mexico?
Crofton, Clifton, I don't know. It starts with a C. Crofton, it's over near the sand, the white sand.
Well, this is a true story. I traded a speech for the ability to train with John Jones, a famous UFC fighter that lives in the same town as this pregnancy center. And I gave the speech over Zoom because of COVID had happened. But I still have a free, I get to train with John Jones in New Mexico. So I'm looking for an opportunity to go just so I can train with John Jones.
Is he near Cloudcroft? Because that's the name of it. Cloudcroft, New Mexico.
No, I'm not sure.
They had rented an Airbnb, and that's where we took the ladies and had our retreat. We always try to find a place where it's private and beautiful and serene, and it was awesome. And that's something else that people, if you're looking for healing, write me. We can get you in one of our retreats coming up. I'm working on the first men's retreat. My goal is to have the first one by spring of next year and of 2023. And I don't know what God's got planned. I just know that I'm going to keep walking the doors He opens. and just keep speaking the truth. That's all that I can do, no matter who doesn't like it. I'm just going to keep doing what I know I should do. I don't want to offend you. I think it's time to offend people in love, but I'm not out here to try to, like they've accused us of, Jason, stop gloating and grandstanding. I'm like, sit down and shut up. I'm not doing that at all. I'm not going to not give God glory for Roe being overturned. And I'm not going to celebrate the fact that children will live and their mothers and fathers won't have to live with what I have to live with and so many others like me. So, please get in touch with me. There's help available for you if you need it. And we're going to start with your faithful podcast host, Mr. Jason Jones.
Hey, no, this is what we're going to do. Because I am one of these guys that totally, and I get that I'm crazy. My son-in-law said, Mr. Jones, you know how I see you? I see you as Clint Eastwood in Gran Torino. Is this scary? He's from he's Guatemalan. He's like, I see you as a scary old white man. You know, if my kids leave their toothbrush on my counter, guess what I do with it?
You throw it away.
I probably brush my teeth with it. I just don't leave a toothbrush near my sink and then get mad at me because I used it.
Oh.
If I'm going for a hike and I have a runny nose, I do what men did in the 30s. I blow my nose in my hands. I'm one of those guys. So there's some of us that are still around. And I know it grosses. That's just who I am. And I'm one of these guys who's like, I think healing retreats are great for women. Man, nah, come on.
No.
So you're going to bring me to your retreat and you're going to walk me from this primitive place where I live, and you're going to walk me to become a healthy, well-adjusted human being.
Yeah, well, I am. And that's not to say that the men's retreats are different from the women, but the men are still finding so much healing, and they're finding the strength to, okay, what's next? And you want them to be marching behind you, Jason. I'm telling you, because I've seen it happen. I haven't had a retreat, but I have helped other men and connected them with men who are post-abortive who did the same counseling that I do that I will be doing in the retreat. And these men, you want them marching behind you with their swords and their armor on. You find me the men who say, now I'm ready to fight. Now I'm ready to go fight. Tell me what I can do next. I am telling you, you're going to have to get on this podcast and say, hey, guys.
No, I want to do that.
Now I know I'm wrong. Vic was right, and now I get it. And that's why you have to be in the first one. So as soon as it's scheduled.
No, I'm there because the men we need to go aren't the guys that line up. The guys that line up to go, those guys, I don't get them. But it's the guys that I'm sure a lot listening are like me. They're like, yeah, I'm with you, Jason. I'm not going to that. I'm post-abortive. I'm not going to that.
I'm telling all of you that are listening, and including Jason Jones, and he's just said he's willing to do it.
I'm doing it.
Well, then prove me wrong. Prove me wrong.
No, we know you're right. My friends get mad at me so much. They'll ask me what I feel about something. I give them an answer. Then I'll say something else. And they go, you just contradicted yourself. I'm like, no, I didn't. You asked me how I feel. I think my thoughts and my feelings are often in disagreement.
Jason, Jesus died on the cross, not just for women, but for men.
No, I mean, I know that, but it doesn't mean and I know that he died for men too, but I'm just saying that I know when I say this is how I feel about something, it doesn't mean it's how I think about it.
I get it. I hear you. I don't think my opinion of you has not changed. You've always been someone who's open and honest, and you tell it the way you feel it, because bottom line is I don't want to be saying something out of my mouth just to say it, to make somebody else feel good and tickle their ears. I'm going to just be honest with you. It's kind of like attribute it to my friend who went out with somebody because she met him online. Then when they met in person, it wasn't me, by the way. When they met in person, she said, Vic, he looked nothing like his pictures. He was nothing like what he told me. And I said, here's what I don't get. Why are people lying about who they are when isn't the end goal for you to have a relationship with them? Well, for me, if you show up and you're not who you presented yourself to be, whether it's on the phone or wherever, I'm going to be saying, check, please. Yeah. But we all need to be authentic and real about who we are, even if it's, Vic, I can't stand people. Help me to walk this journey. And I don't want to feel this way, but I would be lying to you if I told you I didn't. So I appreciate that more than you pretending, which I can't see you pretending anything. But anyways, we're going to get you in the next one. The first inaugural Reassemble Men's Retreat, Jason Jones will be there.
I will be there, and we'll invite folks from men that listen to the Jason Jones Show. Well, Victoria,
Yeah.
I'm going to land this plane, and then I'm going to go eat. I went, before I did this, I did Muay Thai kickboxing today. That's my hobby. And then I rushed to do this interview, and I'm still very sweaty, and this has been a long show, and I'm very hungry. So I'm going to land the plane, and I'm going to go eat.
All right, Jason. Thanks for having me.
All right,
You're
thanks.
the best.
Thanks, Victoria.
Do it again. God bless you. Bye,
God bless.
buddy.
All right, I want to make this clear, folks, to those guys listening. And I did an introduction with Victoria on, because we're doing 49 shows in a row, and my poor producer is having to edit the intros and the outros together every day. That's how it works. But the reason I want to redo it is I don't want to sound like I'm being harsh to those men who are post-abortive, which is a lot of you men. What I'm saying is, what am I saying? I have issues. I do get very angry when men will tell me their post-abortion story and tell me how upset they were by it, but then I don't see any practical application. When we're in the Army, before they would teach us anything, say, we're going to give you an explanation, demonstration, and practical application in the use of the M203 grenade launcher, whatever. It is something that just greatly frustrates me. That's all I was trying to say. I don't want to sound like I'm, I don't know what I'm trying to say. This is a long show. Okay. You want to go to mypillow.com, use the code Jones, and get deep discounts on those awesome pillows, shoes, slippers, Giza Dream sheets, and mattress toppers. Okay. And I can tell you, as hot as it is in Texas, and it is hot, I am super grateful that I have a MyPillow pillow and I have Giza Dream sheets. And you will be thankful too. So if you're living in Texas, I just saw this is one of the hottest summers in the history of Texas, and my lawn is dead because we're not allowed to water our grass. As I'm looking at it, it's begging for its life. I